A groomsman and his last-minute guests are about to discover if a fake date can go the distance in a fun and flirty debut novel. Agreeing to go to a wedding with a guy she gets stuck with in an elevator is something Alexa Monroe wouldn't normally do, but there's something about Drew Nichols that's hard to resist. On the eve of his ex's wedding festivities, Drew is minus a +1 until a power outage strands him with a perfect candidate for a fake girlfriend. Too bad they can't stop thinking about one another. All right, guys, so this week we are reviewing The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I'm your host, Jan. I'm here with my co-host. Joy, you want to do a quick intro?
Hi, I'm Joy. She just said my name, so.
Jasmine,
do you want to introduce yourself?
So we also have a guest this week. I'll allow them to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Cool. I'm Jasmine, and I am one of the J sisters.
So you get 3 of us this week, guys. So exciting, right? All right. So as we normally do, we're going to start off with ratings. Joy, you get to go first.
Have me go last. I will go last.
All right, fine. Jazz, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I can go first, but for a rating, are we saying why we gave it a certain rating, or do we just give the rating?
You can give a quick summary.
Can.
We're doing out of 5 stars, what your rating is, and like a quick summary.
Okay. For this book, I would give it a 4 out of 5. And the reason why I give it a 4 out of 5 is because, 1, I'm in an interracial relationship, and there were so many things that were validating for me. 2, I felt great at the end of the book. And 3, I thought it gave a realistic picture of a Black woman just dating in general. So that's why I gave it a 4.
Yeah. Okay, good reasoning. For my rating, actually would also give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And Joy, I see your face this whole time. This whole time. What I will say is that romance novels, while I don't read them much anymore, like for a long time, that was my ish. Like I could not get my hands on enough romance novels from middle school all the way through college. And reading it, I fell back in love with the genre. And out of romance novels, I feel like there's so many that I've read where the writing is so secondary to whatever like love plot they have going on, and like the character development isn't there. And I felt like this was actually good writing with the story. Joy,
yeah,
that's just a quick synopsis. I'll get into all of that when we have the discussion. But Joy, it looks like you're going to be rating it a lot lower. So let's just go ahead and get your rating.
I was going to say both of your opinions are very valid for the reasons that they're valid.
All right.
Okay.
I'm struggling to give it a 1. Like, I did not enjoy it. I forced myself to listen to the story. I didn't like neither one of them. I thought he was needy. She was annoying every time it came to food. It was just too much. And I'm just like, if you want to do smut, just go all the way. She just gave us a little bit and then backed off.
Okay.
I'm like, what? I didn't like the story. I didn't like it. Not at all. And I've been in a long distance relationship for 6 years, and they were horrible. Awful. Okay.
Wait, they were horrible or long distance dating is horrible?
They made it seem like long distance relationships, you can just go every weekend to see each other. Mind you, he's a doctor, she's a lawyer, but it was just like, seeing it as a long distance relationship, it was not realistic to me whatsoever. There were times...
Wait a minute, you're giving spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wait
Whatever.
1 second. Wait one second. That
1.
reminded me. Whatever. So 1 out of 5 stars for Joy. But you did remind me that this is a romance novel, which means we need to give a secondary rating, which is the spiciness level rating, which is like the love scenes. I will go first, and I will give it a 2 out of 5 stars for spiciness. And I think that was intentional. Like, you can get all the way smut, and I have read smutty stuff. But I don't think that was the intention of this book. So I'll give it a 2 out of 5, but that doesn't necessarily take away from the story for me. Jazz, do you want to give a spiciness rating?
I think I would give it a 2 as well, because even with the spicy scenes, the vocabulary used was very limited. It wasn't very adventurous. So yeah, I would give it
Vanilla.
that. Not even vanilla. It's someone who doesn't want to talk about sex describing a sex scene. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like. Not even, yeah, it wasn't even vanilla. This is the basic things they do. It's less than that. But I think the point of it is not like a sexy story. It's a cute romance. That's the place for it, and that's where I held it for this story.
I give it, for a spiciness scale, I give it like a -5. Like,
Okay, enough, Joy.
every time. Every time. No. You can't not want to write about the sex scenes and then not write about. You have
You
18
can
different
do
ones.
romance without sex scenes. You can do that.
Think about every rom-com. Like every rom-com is PG-13. There's little to no sex at all. There's allusions to it, and then everything just completely goes away, and that's it. That's the end of the sex scene.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, there were so many scenes starting off or finishing off where it was like, I'm not saying like I'm begging for you to just go through. I'm just like, either do it or don't. There were so many scenes and just none of them did it.
They did it then. You said do it or don't. They did it. But anyway,
okay.
We'll get into it. I just want to give a quick warning to everybody that we are about to get into spoilers. If you haven't read it and you don't want spoilers, this is a good time to click off the episode and read it and come back. Please come back after you read it. But also, if you want a chance to win a copy of The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, stick around to the end, or if you don't want spoilers, skip to the end to figure out how you can win a chance. What am I trying to say?
How you can get a chance to win.
Thank you. I couldn't organize those words in the right way. Okay, but with that, here comes the book discussion.
I just realized that Jasmine is the same name as the author for Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little biased towards this book for some reason.
Yeah, I noticed. Like when you said that you gave it 4 stars because you're in an interracial relationship, I was like, damn.
How many? There's not a lot of stories out there with interracial, not realistic pictures. I feel like there are stories of interracial relationships, but race is just not a conversation at all in them. And I love that was a conversation, and it's an important conversation that needs to happen in any interracial relationship.
No, I like that too. That's probably the only reason she got a 1, because she was like, are there black people at this party? No, I don't think so. Or when she was like, when they were talking about school, it was like, would you get in trouble for doing the same bullshit like any other teenager would do, like a black kid would? And he was like, no. So I like those discussions.
And that's something I will say. I think I am a little biased too, Joy. Just like last week with Skin of the Sea, how you said this was the first book you read with Orisha's. This is the first romance book, not the first, but out of all the romances I said I read, maybe like less than 5 for sure had like black main characters. So the fact that they had those discussions was completely foreign to me in a romance novel, which I absolutely loved. And Agreed. I feel like she had a good amount of it too, where it wasn't the whole book, but it came up when it needed to come up.
Very early relationship, so you don't talk about it much unless it actually comes up. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so something that should be interesting to all of us, and my first question of the night is, what did you think about the sister dynamic?
It was cute. It was there, used as a main bullet point for the topic of the story. But
I would like to say that for the sister dynamic, I thought it was interesting how when something happens, and I don't know if this is just in the black community or whatever, I don't know, I think happens in a lot of families, but when there's something traumatic happens to one person in the family, it happens to everyone in the family. And that carries on. I thought it was interesting how Alexa, she carried this deep in her soul, what happened to her sister when she was younger, to the point that it impacted her career and how she views the world. And when they had differences, when it came to just working with youths and those who get in trouble, it rocked her entire relationship because this was a big part of her. So I thought that was interesting, especially when you think about this. I could be misremembering this, but I felt like the sister didn't care that much, like how much Alexa carried this with her.
Mhm.
So I just thought,
What are
that
you
was
tripping
interesting.
about?
Exactly. So it just shows, even though you could be experiencing the exact same thing, like it impacts each member of your family a little bit differently than what you would expect, which is, I don't know, it just goes into the whole nurture versus nature thing. Like
Yeah.
you come from a different perspective, even though you come from the same household, the same parents, and you see the world differently.
I would say that's something I really appreciate about the writing. It was very subtle, but I know I'm probably that sister out of all of us, like where I like am anxious about shit that like happened years ago, and I'm still thinking about it. When I bring it up, everyone's, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, and maybe not out of all of us. Maybe all of us like do that to a certain extent, but I know I definitely do, and it
I
makes
just
me.
chalk it up to you being an Aquarius.
That could be it. But I would say it's all air signs. And you're an air sign too, honey.
And we all know that I'm anxious when I can't get y'all on the phone. So
Joy will definitely
I
call you
claim it.
3 times in a row. Are you alive? Like I talked to you 2 hours ago. Calm down.
Things can happen in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Answer your phone.
But yeah, I definitely felt that where she was so anxious about it. It was like this huge secret. She only shared it with 2 people. What was his name? Theo? When she told him that she had told Drew, he was like, "Oh, I know it's real." Like, really? Like,
Yeah.
it's that deep for her? And her sister was just like, "What? I know that you're sorry. Like, it's fine."
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really
And I think it's interesting too that she carried that with her and didn't talk to her sister about it, but based her whole career off of like getting this done.
Right.
It's like saying like one time I asked Jen to help me study and you didn't, and I got an F, and you're like, "I'm going to be a teacher and help every child pass their test." And then I'm gonna tell you that I became a teacher to help all these kids pass their tests. Like, what? That didn't make sense to me at all.
Her
But
potentially
whatever.
going to jail is a lot different than you getting an F. And especially, I think it wasn't about her even going to jail potentially. It's the fact that she said she treated her horribly for years after that. Like at the beginning of the book, she was talking about, "I'm going to work on my relationship with my sister," even though they seemed like they were in a great place. And even then, I was like, what is she talking about? And then it comes to fruition that like she has this guilt over something that happened years ago that the sister didn't know about. And I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense that she said that they're working on their relationship even though it seemed fine.
Yeah.
No.
I was confused. I was curious about that too. Y'all seem pretty close to me. I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting at one point when they broke up for a week or whatever, when she went to her sister and they actually spent time together, I was like, this is the love story I want to talk about. This is the one that I'm interested in. I don't know. I was just so bored throughout the whole book.
She didn't go and spend time with her though. She just talked to her on the phone.
No, yeah, she talked to her on the phone, but someone picked her up too from the airport and she hung out with them. Like when
You
she
mean
brought
her
them back
friend?
home. Her friend brought her back from the airport?
Yeah, because she was borrowing her car.
Yeah. I guess like it was when they were on the phone, they were just talking. I was like, this is what I want to know. I hope she doesn't get back together with him and they just figure their stuff out.
Wow.
They're both just,
What's motivating this for you, Joy? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
they're
want to
just, like,
dig
both
deeper
annoying.
too, where you said that she was annoying when it came to food. What does that mean? Like,
She
I don't
did
know.
talk about food quite a bit.
She did.
and about how much she liked donuts. What's the problem with that?
And pizza
I
and
Yeah.
like she got
Like,
so
we get
excited about
it.
food.
So
Yeah, you're curvy. We get it. It's not a bad thing to like food, but I think the way it was written, when you first find out that she likes food or whatever with the donuts, the morning when he brings them, like it went on for like pages about how much she like sprinkled donuts and what's in the bag. What's in the bag? You can't trick me. You can't distract me. What's in the bag? And I was like, oh my goodness.
that
thing
was
is,
the
that was
awkward
supposed to be-
dialogue for me.
That was just supposed to be her quirkiness, and it comes out like that's what he loves. He likes that about her. He likes that she's a little greedy thing, like she's curvy, and she was also
My little
self-conscious.
Yeah, she was. It's a difference though. Like the way that it's written, it's one thing to be self-conscious. It's one thing to just be cool in your body, because obviously, but it just seemed cringy to me the way that it was written, the way that it always came up. Like that girl loves food and she's curvy and she loves donuts. Like she like donuts? Yeah, she likes donuts.
All right.
I think that's another thing I appreciated about the book too, because it's unseen in romance, usually what they say about in romance movies, oh, I'll have a salad and I'm thin and I'm blonde and I'm just this perfect girl who like I have my problems because I can't find a man, but I go to the gym every day and I do this. I think it's just a courageous approach to break down some of those barriers that the protagonists in these types of movies look a certain way. And that's fine. And not only is she black, but she's a curvy black woman because there are wispy black women too. But she's a curvy black woman and she likes to eat. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get excited when someone says ice cream. They're like, hey, do you want more? Heck yeah, I want more ice cream. There's nothing
Like to me, like we're happy. It wasn't about the food itself. It was the way that it was written to make it seem like she had this donut addiction. And I think if it wasn't donuts, it just makes me as a fat person. I am just like, please, not the donuts. Can it be like tortilla chips? Can it be like, I don't know. It's just like the donuts like hit
tortilla chips too.
Not like donuts. Those damn donuts came up like 4 different times in the story.
I will say this. When you are working in the office, that is everybody's go-to, like donuts. They bring in donuts all the time. And I feel like half the time they talked about it is because somebody brought it into the office or she did. And that's actually pretty authentic or realistic when you're working in an office with people. So
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I wanted to
and
comment
you're more excited
too.
about free donuts.
Yeah,
by the
exactly.
way.
I wanted to
that's
comment
true.
too on your like thing you talked about with like romance movies where it's always like this thin, blonde, wispy girl is the main character. I will say too, like in romance novels, it's different where like they don't describe the main character and they do it purposely so that you can like insert your like self in there. And if they do describe it, it's like just a plain like, yeah, mousy brown hair, unrecognizable, like pretty plain. And again, so that anybody can insert themselves into the main character. So the fact that she like made it a point to describe a black character was like, I love it. So there was also
I think I really like that she put a curvier black woman in there. I like that she described it. I think my issue with it is that it went into the, what do you call it when it's just like the idea of it, whereas you just think this of the people, like stereotypical. Oh, of course the fat black girl likes donuts all the time. It's like saying the orange cat likes lasagna. It just it's just so stereotypical. So it annoyed me a little bit. So I don't know.
I think your comment is racist against orange cats,
Right.
by the way. So just gonna put that out
thanks
there.
for stereotyping all those cats, Joy. All the Garfields out there.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on from the donuts.
I know. I want to get into this. Here's a question I have for you, Joy. It seems,
God.
and I'm going to
Do
say
you
this.
like donuts? Do you like it, fat black women?
Shut up.
Yes,
I'm gonna
I
say
do,
this.
actually, yes.
Like, I feel like a
Glazed.
little defensive of it because, like, when I tell you I was like a romance enthusiast from middle school through college, I read those books in secret nonstop. I used to work in an antique mall where all I had to do was walk around. It was like everyone had their different booths, and there was one booth with romance novels in it. That's all they sold. And every time I would walk around, I stop at that booth and read 2 pages of a book. Like, keep walking. But I did it in secret for the longest time because anytime I was reading a romance novel, like out in public in college, there was always those like super like snotty people. Oh, that's what you're reading, romance? That's so like below us. And I'm like, meanwhile, you're like reading absolutely nothing that's not assigned to you. So shut up.
Yeah.
But that's the exact reason I didn't want to know because every time someone would judge me. So my question to you, Joy, is it, do you have a problem with romance novels in general? What's happening here? When was the last time you read a romance novel?
I literally read them all the time. It's funny because you say you haven't read one with an interracial couple or whatever, but I'm reading one right now.
What's it
And
called?
she's
We
a
need to
black
read it.
black. Truly, royally, madly, or something like that. Truly,
Oh,
madly,
that's on our
royally. I showed
list.
you the book before. Yeah, I have that book, and I'm just like, not once has a donut been mentioned, and she's a flat black woman. I'm just like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. So, I'm just saying, I don't have an issue with romance. I don't have an issue with the way that it was like written. I have an issue with the way it was written. Oh, okay. Here's another thing that I didn't like about it. No, I'm talking about it. I listened to the book.
I knew you were going to get into
The
this.
narrator for the book sounded like she came from the ID channel. Like I felt like I was watching Snap the whole time, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
this voice doesn't match what I'm reading at all. And then sometimes when you read like Audible books, they have different voice actors for the characters, but it was the same woman for when it was his perspective too. And I'm just like, I can't get into it. I watch way too many murder mysteries. Like, I can't.
Her
Who's
inflection
dying?
was
Basically,
off a ton too. Like some of the things she said, I was like, I don't think they said it like that though.
Yeah. So I was like, is it the author or is it the actor? Because I can't.
I think it was the voice actor. Like she threw me off quite a few times. And I'm not on blast, but
wasn't she singing songs incorrectly too? There'll be a song and she's like completely off beat and not singing it to like how it's supposed to be, or I feel like she was doing that too. No? I get confused because I know this book is part of a series. And like they have all the different characters that you hear their romance stories and stuff too, and they use the same voice actress. And I remember having that same fault, like, girl, that's not how Beyonce Bills goes. Like, why are you singing this like this?
yeah, if we do the second and third, this is part of a series, by the way. So the next one is the proposal and then the wedding party, I think. Did you read all three, Jazz?
I didn't read the proposal, but I read.
One.
I know. I read the wedding party, and I was just getting spoilers for what happened in the proposal.
That's why I hate doing it out of order. And they always say, this is a standalone piece. You don't have to read the other one first. Like, I hate spoilers. I'm going to read it in order.
I love the wedding party, though, with her. I think that's the one with her friend, her best friend in this book.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it.
So friend is Olivia, right? Or is that her sister?
Olivia is her sister. Maddie, I believe, is her friend.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The stylist.
I think the proposal is with his friend Carlos.
I like Carlos.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep.
So since
Carlos
we're talking
cracks me
about
up.
it, then let's talk about who your favorite character was. And Joy, I guess you can go first.
Carlos. It was Carlos. He was hilarious. He always called the main characters out. What are y'all doing? What is the mission? Like, why would you tell her that? You're not sleeping with someone right now because you're at work. It doesn't make any sense. He just kept calling them out, but he was there, though. Like, he picked her up from the airport. I feel like Carlos was me in a male body. And, like, any kind of romance. I'm just like, all right, I guess. I'm here. I will tell you if you're being ridiculous. It's just, they're too old to be acting sometimes, some kind of ways. I'm just like, can y'all communicate a little bit better, I guess? So, but yeah, I like Carlos.
All right, least favorite character?
Nichols.
Drew Nichols. All right. I'm not going to ask you. Jasmine.
And you know why?
No, I don't want to know why.
I knew it. I knew it from the second I wouldn't like him when he said that stupid last name. And then it's just, I wasn't feeling him. I never felt
Stupid last. You don't even like his last name?
I don't.
Gee, okay. Enough from you, Joy. You keep trying me today. Jasmine, who was your favorite and least favorite
The
character?
only worst last name
Oh
he
my
could have
God.
would be Andrews. If his name was Drew Andrews, I would just give up. I would have to skip the podcast this time. I couldn't do it. Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead, Jess.
Do you understand, Jasmine, what I go through? Does that make
I
any
guess.
sense? Let's just one question. Joy, I'm going to mute you if you say anything. Jasmine, does it make sense that she does not like the name Nichols? Again, nothing out of you, Joy.
I guess she must have some personal problems with someone in the name Nichols.
That's what we're
It doesn't
gonna
make
assume.
sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jasmine, do you want to do your favorite and least favorite characters?
Yeah. I guess my favorite character, I liked her friend Maddie because I felt like she was always grounded. She was always honest and she always lifted her up, which is great because I feel like another portrayal of women in general. I don't think it's as much in romance movies, although sometimes you see that where it's catty, it's superficial, it's, oh, you go, girl. It's not like them having these deep conversations about you are a great person and you deserve the best and just like giving your friend their crown. And I really enjoyed seeing that. And I also like that one thing I do like about her writing is like Black people aren't a monolith. Like you have one Black woman who's in politics, which I feel like that's not a stereotype that you see. Oh, I didn't know Black people worked in politics. And then her friend works in fashion. She's a stylist and she's successful. And then you have a Black lawyer. It's just, there's so much Black excellence in the book with everyone. So yeah, I really appreciate that. So Maddie was probably my favorite character, and I'm biased there too because she worked in fashion, and that's where I got my degree.
I think she was cool.
Yeah.
Joy.
Least favorite character?
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I just felt good during the whole book. And honestly, I feel like when you're reading a romance book, that's the point of it. I think that Drew, his privilege will piss me off. Sometimes he would say some things and then she would equally get as upset. I'm like, yeah, girl, you tell him. You tell his ass because that's not cool.
And he was so needy.
Yeah, I know he meant well. I think it was really cute when he was mad at her and then he heard her laugh and stopped his conversation with his friends to go to her. I thought that was the cutest thing ever. So yeah, even though like he was annoying at times, I wouldn't say that he was the worst character. I don't think there's a worst character. Theo also annoyed me sometimes with some of the things he would say.
I didn't expect that. What did he say that annoyed you?
Okay, again, I could be misconstruing some things with another book. If you read the series, you'll see. And just put that out there.
All right.
You'll see.
Okay, we can leave it at that.
But we're going off of one book though. Theo was an angel.
An angel. All right.
An angel.
So I'll get into mine then. My favorite character was Olivia. I thought she was like so cool and supportive. There was a couple of things, like even though she was barely in the book, I love that like at the beginning she was like excited to share this with her sister. She didn't get upset when she didn't text her back, even though she was stuck in the elevator, which I feel like you were sitting there. You definitely could have texted the girl back to tell her you were okay. I love that like she called and was stressed about telling her about this program for some reason. Not some reason. I know why she was stressed. But she was like, yeah, I already know. Like, of course I follow your career. Like, how much more supportive can you get? Like, you're following this girl's career that lives in a complete, like, across the country. She was in New York. Her sister's in Olivia. And she's looking at local politics just to see what her sister's doing. I thought that was so super supportive. And she surprised her on the day of, like, the hearing and came in and, like, her testimony that she put on the mic changed a lot of people's opinions. Like, Olivia, like, she didn't ask one thing of Olivia, and she was always there in the background to support her. And I thought that was just so awesome. So,
who was your least favorite?
Drew. Drew was definitely the least favorite character for me for multiple reasons. And
one of the reasons, Jake, what you hate him.
I didn't want to ask you too much because that's going to lead into one of my questions. And I guess this is a good segue. But here's my question for you guys. Is Drew toxic?
Yeah.
Joy, I feel like you were chomping at the bit, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yes, he is. He's. If I met someone in the elevator that was broken, attractive, I'm like, all right, cool. You want to do a blind, like, random date? No. What? I just...
You don't want to go on a date with somebody you met? That's literally how people meet.
And a wedding, that's a nice date.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Somebody paid a pretty penny for that plate for you, and you get to play around and pretend like you're a part of the family when you don't know anybody. That's probably the best date you could possibly go on.
Especially since they're out of the not country, they're out of the state. No, they're not out of the state. They're out of the city.
Yeah,
they live in a completely different city. There's no consequences to this. It's just a like fun, like almost theater kind of.
It doesn't seem fun to me. No, I'm not an actress, Jan. I'm a normal person. I don't want to sit here and lie to people all night. If I'm going on a date, I just want to talk to you and get to know you.
But
I don't
want dating is like a
huge
trope in romance novels and comedy, like rom-coms. Fake dating is a huge trope. There's hundreds of romance tropes, and that's probably in the top 10. Fake dating.
Here's another thing that I don't like about Nick.
Not Nick.
I'm a cute movie.
Not Nick.
Not Nick. Drew. About Drew. Something that I really disliked, and this just went like straight downhill for me ever since then, when they were like, oh, we can't see each other for 2 weekends or whatever because we're both going to be so busy, and he still brought his ass up to Berkeley. Like, when she said that she was going to be busy anyway, like, you don't know if she had to work still, you don't know if she had another event to go to, and you showing up at her door. Tell me the ick
Okay.
that I received from that chapter.
That gave you the ick.
I was like, ugh.
Okay, but listen, here's the thing though. She wanted him to come up that weekend, but he couldn't.
He didn't know that.
No, she did. She told him that, but he couldn't because he was on call. So he went during the week to surprise her. He only stayed for the night. Like, he did it at his own risk. I get what you're saying, but I don't think her saying she was busy was like a huge thing. And they were obviously equally as needy. So it just goes to prove to me that they're right for each other.
Yeah.
Both so needy. And then here's my other issue I had when she asked him if he was sleeping with someone else. And he just wouldn't tell her no. I'm like, no, I'm just with you. And
especially since it seems like that's what he wanted. Like, he was like, why are you playing games right now? And I feel like Carlos told him that too. Here's my big issue with Drew, to be honest with you. Like, all of that, like, it seemed like he was super immature with the actual dating stuff. But my huge issue was how he treated Carlos. Like, he's a toxic ass friend. And like his patience too. Like, you're pissed about this girl, this like random girl you've only known for a month. So you're like snapping at kids and their mothers and made a mom cry, and like how unprofessional. And seriously, the shit he was saying to Carlos that last meeting that they had, where Carlos had to actually stop and be like, okay, enough. You shouldn't have said that. Like, how much is somebody supposed to take? The world isn't your punching bag. You can't just get pissed off and treat people like shit. And that's why I feel like he was more of a toxic friend than anything else. But he obviously had a lot of hangouts with dating too.
And then when she left him the last night they were together, look, I have a list. So,
Jasmine, you haven't got a chance to talk at all.
When she left and left a little note or whatever, I don't think this is gonna work. He kept using sex, by the way, to keep her there. That don't work for me. That can't be that great. So when he left, when she left, and then he didn't bother to text her, he didn't bother to call her, he didn't do anything. And I'm just like, but then he does a grand gesture at the end. I didn't like it. I'm like, you're gonna do a grand gesture, but you can't communicate with me, and that's what it comes down to. I'm such a huge communicator. I'm like, I'm glad that you're here, but at the same time, you're not talking to me. We can't have a relationship if you don't talk to me. And that's what it comes down to. And I just didn't like the relationship as a whole. I didn't like it because neither one of them spoke to each other.
Question I have for Joy. Do you like romantic comedy movies? Because this is literally the recipe for every dude, every main character, the protagonist is problematic. Think about Matthew McConaughey and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Like, he was a traditional asshole. That was the whole point of the movie. You know what's hilarious? It was so satisfying to see him be tortured throughout the majority of the movie. He was an asshole. And his friends are like, oh, how was it like having sex with those twins? It was just what you imagine. Like, he was just like a traditional ass. When I compare Drew to characters and like romantic comedies, he's mild. Like, he's not that bad compared to some of the other ones.
The bar is in hell, Jasmine. That's why he's not that bad. The reason why we're here right now with like whole incompetence and all that, like, what's it called? Something incompetence.
Oh, weaponized incompetence.
All these things, we don't have the standards for men in certain relationships, especially romantic relationships, because we have movies and books constantly saying you don't have to jump over the bar to get this woman. Just be goofy or just come back or do a grand gesture. Women don't want that. They want you to communicate and be real and honest. And that's why we're still here. That's why we're struggling right now.
I also want grand gestures. I think we watch it before the grand gestures, right? Like, I want somebody to run to the freaking airport and act like they about to get on a plane and spend $5,000 just so they can go through 9/11 and tell me like, hey, I'm an asshole and I messed up. Or just show up at my door and tell me like how much they care and how stupid they were. Like, at the end of the day, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I don't think like I think we all make mistakes. I think men probably make more than their fair share. But as long as they're willing to come to the table and say, hey, I realized I was an idiot and I'm willing to do better. That's what we read these books for. At least that's what I read them for. And the grand gesture is everything.
I will say this. I just want to mediate real quick because y'all are getting into it. What I will say is, Joy, you got me onto Lore Olympus, the comic, like the webtoon. And I feel like Hades in that webtoon is the perfect, like what everybody wants. Like someone who's in tune with their emotions and does the right thing, isn't pushy. The thing is, I feel like we're not there yet. To your point, like the bar is a lot lower. Like when you read stuff like this, it's a little bit more realistic, and like it shows people that there is a chance still. Like it's nice to
Yeah, you could
read
be a
both
toxic asshole and still have a chance. Yes, I see.
and still be redeemed. I don't know what else to say.
He didn't get redeemed. He didn't get better with this communication. She didn't get better with her communication. He just showed up and she was like, okay. There was never a time when they just sat down and talked about it until the very end. It we just sat through this whole thing. Maybe because I'm younger and I just saw like
All
better,
right, don't act
healthier
like you're like 10
relationships.
years
But
younger though. Let's not do that. Let's not do that,
no,
Joy.
I'm not saying that. I'm just like, I feel like I have my standard, and like seeing a guy like fumble his way into a relationship with a woman who's probably a little too good for him, I don't find romantic. I don't find cute. I don't the grand gesture at the end because he fucked up and didn't communicate. I'd rather us be together, laying in bed or going on vacation together on this plane, so you don't have to buy a $5,000 ticket. I don't want to have my emotions all over the place when I'm in a relationship. I don't need that kind of excitement, if that's what you call it. I'm sorry, like, yeah, we're boring, but we're healthy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have a healthy
relationships
relationship.
also happen over years.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. I feel like every relationship goes through this fumbling where it's immaturity that you have to get through. It's figuring out yourself, and then also that person figuring themselves out, and then figuring out each other as they change. Like those are so many things that come with being in a relationship. And I can tell you how many relationships that look so similar to what Alexa went through in hers, because it's just, is it worth it? Do I want to dismiss this person based on what they're saying? And a lot of the times it comes down to, are you willing to grow? Are you willing to change? Because it's inevitable, right? Growth is inevitable, and change is inevitable. And as long as you have that willingness, I feel like that is a quality that goes far, for sure.
I understand that. I just wish that they communicated better. Like, you can't have growth without communication. And that's a
So
big
one
thing
thing I
for
will
me.
say, and I'll stop doing these spoilers for other books. More of that in the series later
Okay.
on, like how their relationship matures. Because to Janice's point, this is like the first few months of them dating.
It was only
and
1
it's
month.
very tumultuous. It's 1 month.
That's what I was gonna say to Joy too when she talked about how unrealistic it was for them to be visiting each other every weekend. I feel like it actually wasn't that unrealistic, since they thought it was just gonna be a fun thing. It's not like they were planning event like at that time to see each other for years or even a year. It was supposed to be just fun. They're in the same state. They're just flying a city, so it probably wasn't too expensive. I don't think it's that unrealistic for them. And throughout that year, because I know at the epilogue they showed them a year in the future when he proposed. They probably didn't visit each other. Or I guess he moved there actually, so
Yeah, he moved there. Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I don't think it was
like, oh,
super
that's a big step.
unrealistic. Yeah, it is, but at least it
know.
was for his career too. Like he was developing his
Yeah.
career as well. So I don't think it was super unrealistic.
I think I expected a little bit more from them too, because they are a lawyer and a doctor, so they have to be at least like mid-30s. This gave me early 20 vibes. Neither one of you guys know what you want. You're just in it for the sex or whatever. It's a good time, but it didn't hit me as you guys are a doctor and a lawyer and like responsible adults.
I feel like that's what I liked about it too, though. It doesn't seem like either of them was like chopping at the bit to get in a relationship, even though they were older. It didn't have that classic romance trope of she's a little bit older, so she's so desperate to be with somebody. She was career focused, which I really like that. It didn't seem like they were in and out of relationships and desperate or anything like that. And I will also say, like, for a romance, like it has to be some kind of like unhealthy nonsense going on, because like otherwise, why is it a book? Where's the conflict?
Exactly.
You know?
And I felt like the conflict in this book was weak. It was very weak. Oh, then it just ends.
And I feel like there could have been more conflict. Like when she figured out that he lied or misrepresented the case about her dumping him at the wedding, I feel like she should have been more pissed about that, and she wasn't. And again, it leads to
Wow.
Drew is toxic as hell.
I don't think that. See, that's funny because like the whole thing was like this is fake anyway. Why do I care?
The
That
reason
was
she
one of
like
my.
agreed to go with him is because he made her feel sorry for him, and he admitted that he did it purposefully. Yeah, I did lead you to believe that's how it was, but it wasn't.
Hades would never.
Hades would never. Jazz, I don't know if you read Lore Olympus, but get on it.
It's so
Mm.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So healthy. I don't know. It just didn't strike me as something I would go back to read again or recommend to anyone, honestly. Like, I did not feel the story at all. I could live without knowing that story.
I feel like I saw a lot of that in the reviews. Either you loved it or you hated it. It wasn't a lot of in between.
Yeah.
Huh.
Going back to what you said before, Jazz, I know you said Matthew McConaughey and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And at the same time, I was saying Failure to Launch, which is hilarious because it's also Matthew McConaughey. He was such an ass. So
Yeah.
toxic in that movie.
I never seen any of those movies. I just remember here from the commercials, the Lincoln commercials.
Enough,
Lord,
Joy. I don't even know
help
what to
me.
say about that because you
Oh,
listen.
Interstellar. Interstellar.
I haven't seen
I know that
one,
movie.
so.
That one made me cry.
So, did you think the
Yeah.
relationship between the two and like the plot in general was believable? Did you think the two main characters had chemistry? Answer both of those questions, please.
I will say yes. And honestly, let's just recapping this book. It is so similar to my relationship. I was in an interracial relationship. I was in a long distance relationship over the course of years. And I have had those uncomfortable conversations about race on multiple occasions. And it is something that I find that if you're going to be in an interracial relationship, you have to understand the environment that we live in and the things that we're told. I'm told certain things as a Black person about white people, and white people are told certain things about Black people. And you have to guide your way through that while also being mindful of this is a person. This is not just a white person. So I found there to be so many elements of it that were accurate when it comes to just navigating a relationship in general, a long distance one and an interracial one. So yeah, I would say that it was accurate. Now, I've never dated a doctor, so I don't know about someone who's going to just drop as much money as he was dropping to get on a plane and visit as often as he was. But I don't think it's unrealistic to think that too. I'm used to dating being a broke college student.
How much can a ticket be from LAX to San Francisco though?
I feel like
Again,
at that point, just drive.
it's a long way, Joy. California is a massive state.
Yeah.
It's massive. And it's long too, not like Texas. Texas is like big and open.
I'm looking it up.
So,
I'm gonna see if they have one for today and just see what happens.
and then
'Cause
something
that's
else
what Nick
too.
did. Or
Joy, you'll figure this out as you get older. Time is way more valuable than money. So if I was in my mid 30s and dating and I'm in a long distance relationship, which I would definitely second guess being in my 30s, I would not be spending any time being in a freaking car to drive somewhere to see him every weekend. Like
Look
my
at
time
this
is
though.
valuable.
Like I can get a flight today, last minute today for $114. It's the same
Oh,
state,
wow.
you know, like it's super affordable. Like
Right,
people
that's not
spend
bad.
more on dates.
Yeah. That's a line item. Like you can afford that every weekend. So what, 400, 500 bucks a month?
And they only
That's
did it for a
nothing.
month. And it's again, he said he had freaking flyer miles, first of all. So he probably used a lot of those. He actually bought her first ticket. Like she was talking about, I can't sustain this, but that's only after they talked about like she thought it was going to be longer term.
You did say that. I thought that was hilarious because I thought I got flued out.
Yeah, they flew me out.
I don't understand this reference, but whatever.
That's okay, Jazz. We'll tell you later.
Okay.
All right. So, Joy, what do you think about the plot and the chemistry between the characters? Either of those you find to be unbelievable?
No, they were both very realistic. It was just almost like too realistic. I just felt like she was a little too good for him and the stuff that she had to deal with.
That's super
So I was
realistic.
kind of more
ain't it?
like, yeah, I was kind of like sad. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is another story of a woman being too good for this guy. Like, I really felt like she settled for him. Like, you can say he's a doctor or whatever, but he is not a healthy person at all. And especially the 18 red flags that every time she went to a party, she learned something new about him that he never
Oh
brought
yeah,
up. And
that's
the
a good
one time
point.
he was like, let me go ahead and tell you about this one girl that's going to be there that I dated. And it turns out he dated half the women at the party. I'm like, thanks for giving me a clue, I guess. Blue's Clues over here playing with Drew. I couldn't take it. Can you imagine every time he took you somewhere out and someone, oh yeah, I dated him. He dumped me like in a month. How long have y'all been together? I'm like, what, a month?
About a month.
Not like, think about it.
She even called it out. Yeah, I guess that date was gonna be August 5th, and he just didn't even question it. He was just stupid, like slack jaw, like what? What are you talking
Yeah,
about? And I was
I forgot
super
about that.
pissed too. Like the day that she left, he was like, "Whatever, I don't care about her. Let me go on a run. Maybe I'll run into Kat." Like seriously, now you're interested in Kat that she said she was insecure about Kat being there. Toxic.
So that's why I thought of realistic. I was like, yeah, this woman's too good for him. She's gonna go back to him, and he sucks.
yeah. The more examples I keep hearing. Oh yeah, forget about that.
Oh yeah, yeah, because the bar's in hell, Jasmine. He just swiped it off. He
And
wrote it off.
honestly, the most toxic one to me is when he got pissed at her in the car and called her a bitch. I was like, that would have been it for me.
Whoa, did I black out? I don't remember that part.
Well, he didn't really call her a bitch. What he said was, I can't believe that you would assume the worst of me when you were on the phone with your stupid Theo and rewriting a sentence over an hour. I could have called you a super control freak workaholic bitch, but I didn't.
I remember that.
I'm like, oh, what?
What would you really think?
And she just said, now I know what you really think of me. Like, that probably would have been the end for me. Yeah, Drew was toxic as fuck, man.
For real. Like, how long have you been sitting on that? That's like way too put together. Shit. What do you want to talk about? My toenails next? Damn. I know I scratched you a couple times at nighttime.
Right.
Can't
That
help
was
it.
specific.
They grow fast.
All right, Joy, you get it real specific too. Let's see your toenail.
Yeah, I think y'all convinced me to the Drew's toxic camp. He is. I think there. Yeah.
There's been so many times in the story I was like, or else the opposite of this. This is good. This is really nice. I don't have to worry about this
That's a good
stupid
reason
shit.
to give it a good reading, right?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
What?
Because it's
What's
a
the
feel
rating
good
for-
book. It makes you feel good.
No. No. Absolutely not. No.
Okay, one thing I would like to point out, I feel like whenever there is a piece of work by a Black author that is pushing the limits to what is typically done in a genre, it is harshly criticized because we are so starved for something in that same genre. And for me, this was my first time reading a book where I'm like, wow, I actually brought my whole 100% self to this book, and I didn't put out all these other things that I know I have to just neglect and act don't exist while I'm reading it. So for me, it was special in that regard, and it's good to be mindful because I feel like whenever we do have these harsh criticisms, it's always a Black woman as opposed to a Black man too. So that's something that we'll point out when it comes to these, and we have to be mindful of when it comes to a work from a Black author, because it is we have so little in a certain category. And so I will take all that stuff you said like into consideration, but I think a lot of it is the environment. It's because there's so few to choose from that it's easy to have a harsh view of this book.
Yeah.
So my thing about it, and that's what my hang up was too. I was like, this is a Black main character lit book. This is a Black woman writer. I don't want to go in here and give it a 1 star. But I have to.
But you did.
Because
But
here's
you
the
did.
thing.
She said.
Here's the thing. I don't want to lie about my actual feelings towards the book. That's the whole point of a book club. And I think that, yes, she's a Black woman author. I appreciate that, especially if the characters are better written later in the story down the road. But I also think we should still have our standards. Go, hey, just because it's not as bad as it could be, I don't need like Black men and Black women fighting in a story to be realistic or to be like something that people know. Why don't you make a story that's something that we should aim for? Why not have a healthy relationship between these people instead of being like we're the middle between both? Like I'd rather have the standard set than just you going with the standard.
I
So
feel like that's like a criticism on the romance genre and like completely though, because again, like if you
mm-hmm.
have a romance book, 99.9% of them are going to have some kind of unhealthy form of communication because that's the character development. Like that, they
Mm-hmm.
need a conflict. Normally, that is stems on a romantic novel from like unhealthy communication or misunderstandings, and then they like become better characters at the end. That's just the romance genre, unless you pair it with something else like romance in a fantasy where they actually have other obstacles to overcome. But if it's a straight romance novel, that's normally what they're overcoming. Like even when I mentioned Lore Olympus, yeah, Hades is great, but it's a fantasy with a romantic aspect. So they had a lot of other things to overcome. They didn't have to overcome like obstacles like that in their
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
That's true, but I just wish there wasn't like I wish the obstacle could have been like her focusing more on her sister, or her not being ready for a relationship as this lawyer focusing on her job, or anything like that. Or if they were further apart, figure it out as the long distance relationship aspect. Like so many people are in long distance relationships. Make that the issue. There's so many issues that you could come. They're an interracial couple in 2022. Like there's still issues with it now. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
it could have been different things than just having an unhealthy relationship and saying this is fine and they'll work it out later. You know what I mean? There's different ways to do it without it having to be a bad relationship.
I also don't
Yeah,
think it was as
I think that's
toxic as
fair.
we're. I feel like Drew was a very flawed character, but I don't think he's as toxic as we're making him out to be either. I feel like we highlighted all the bad stuff and not the good because all the bad stuff was like irritating to me. And that's what
What's
I
some good
wanted to
stuff?
talk about. I feel like there was definitely good things, like the fact that he was friends with everybody that he broke up with after. Like I know a lot of people that's okay, we're gonna cut that off, or they ghost him or something like that. It's not like he was doing that. The fact that they all got the same speech and could laugh about it really meant that he wasn't like.
But could a woman do the same thing? Could she have a long list of guy friends that she dated and broke up with within a month, and they still be cool with her just hanging out? I feel like that's more of a white male that's a doctor because he has influence in their social sphere that they would still be friends with him. I don't think everyone could do that, no matter how you broke up with them.
I feel like having a friends with benefits for a month isn't really that deep in most cases. Yeah, I don't think that a lot of men would be super salty about it. I also don't know if they'd be hanging out with each other, but
Yeah, like this group of women that I slept with are all at the same party, on the same social field, and they're just cool with it.
What I will say is like when it comes to doctors, I know I have friends who are doctors. They run in small circles because they work all the time. And when they're not working, they're on call. So I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's unrealistic that all the people he dated probably run in the same circles because they're a small community who this is all only people they see is other doctors and stuff. So I think that part makes sense to me. You have something when it comes to being a doctor, not necessarily because he's a doctor and people are going to treat him differently, but because doctors live a certain lifestyle.
I also enjoy when we talk about the good things that whenever she did bring up race to him, he thought about it. Like he didn't just say, "Oh, you're like over
Mm-hmm.
exaggerating," because that's a response we get a lot. Like he
Mm-hmm.
sat, he thought about it, he apologized for it, he actually processed what she was saying. Like she didn't have to try to convince him of things. Like he believed her automatically. Like I think all of those are good things that kind of are unrealistic when I think about the conversations I've had about race, even with my white friends. So I feel like that was a point in his favor.
I feel like that's a point in his favor, yes. That's a good thing, but I feel like that's like a basic thing as well. That you should be able to communicate your issue with your other race of partner that you chose. You should sit down and listen to their concerns.
It
And I feel
is
like you don't get a cookie for doing the basic thing to listen to your partner.
It is
Even
when
if
it's a
when
rarity joy, but that is so. It's to Janice's point. It is rare. It is
mm,
very rare, and it's not necessarily saying, "Oh, we should raise our limits higher." It's more, this is the society we were raised in. It's like pretty much saying people who were raised and breathe air should know how to not breathe air when it's time to. It's that's how our society of white supremacy works, and until you get, I feel like it's really easy to judge people and say this is what you should be responsible for and this is what you should do until you start having those hard conversations with people you are close to and you see the struggles that they also, and I'm not trying to say that I'm not making excuses for people who are blatantly racist and refusing to work on themselves. I'm saying that it does take quite an emotional toll to be able to recognize that something that you've been taught your entire life is wrong. Like, one, you have to come to terms with that. And two, then you have to be like, what is right? It makes you question your whole reality. It's like waking up in the freaking matrix and trying to figure out what's up from down. So I don't want to discount that either. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. And that should be commended, that someone can be able to step outside of their ego and what they have learned and have known their entire lives and be able to accept a completely different reality from the one they've lived their entire lives.
And at the very least, I feel like without question, anytime I have a conversation about race with someone who is not black, and I will say with someone who's not black because it's been like white, Asian, Indian, like a lot of different races, they question you at least once. Like, I did not hear him question her at all. And yeah, that's pretty rare. And that's gone with like romantic relationships, friendships. And y'all know, like, I cut people off quick if I like hear too much of like too many buts, ors, or like anything like that. Like, all right, we're done. Like, but I felt like they like, and I'm not saying it redeems his whole character, but you asked me what are some good qualities, and I'm just giving you some of his good qualities.
All right. So that was two good qualities so far.
I'll point out one. I mentioned it before. Like, he was fighting with her, hadn't seen her in how long. He heard her laugh in a bar, and he completely just let go of all that bullshit. That is not an easy thing for anyone to do.
Definitely
he let
not
go of
me.
all the things.
I'm petty as fuck.
The things he's upset about, the things that he doesn't like about her, the things he's not talking to her for. As soon as he heard her laugh, he knew what his decision was. He didn't even think about it. He went straight to her and not even thinking about how she was going to react to seeing him, even though they were not talking to each other. So I thought that was incredibly endearing to that, because that to me says he's not thinking with his head, he's thinking with his heart. And that is what we all want, right?
And I also feel like he was very considerate. Okay, it's a romance novel. I think he was very considerate of her, like, every time she came over, like, the fact that he was surprising her with donuts. I know, Joy, don't. I know you hate it. But, like, when he figured out that's what she liked, and then the next time he saw her and picked her up from the airport, that's what he had. Like, the fact that he was remembering little things and, like, being, like, prepared and wanting to make her happy, and sent her stuff on the day of her trial at the end. And she didn't text thank you or anything. He was like, it's fine, she's busy. I feel like all of those were good qualities that I feel like he could have easily been petty about, and he chose not to be.
Okay, one more thing I'll add just from my personal life that I thought was realistic, since Joy talked about the donuts. There's one time I remember
I just see my bags getting bigger and darker as we talk about this man.
No, listen. There's one point, me and Chris, early in our relationship, I remember us sitting and he said, I bought some ice cream from the grocery store today. And I was so freaking excited because ice cream is my fave. And I'm like, yeah, why don't I have a bowl in my hand right now? So he's like, okay, I'll go get some ice cream. He made himself a bowl. He made me a bowl. And we're both sitting and watching TV, eating our ice cream. And he's eating this pretty good ice cream. I'm like, yep. And he looks over, my bowl is empty. He's still working on his. And then he goes, oh, you ate all of yours. I'm like, yep. And he was like, do you want some more? I'm like, yeah, I want some more.
Yeah. I ate it all.
I remember that distinctly because I'm like, he is all right. He is all right.
Bringing me ice cream or what. Not only did he buy it, he put it in a bowl for me.
And then refilled it.
More.
He refilled my ice cream bowl. Yes, there was no judgment at all. So
that's a keeper.
Yeah, just pointing it out.
No, that's good. And I can see how it's nice to have someone that you're in a situationship, whatever it was, to actually, oh, she likes this. Let me make sure she has this the next time she comes visit. That's nice. But I also think that I think you guys are coming from the side like, yeah, this is a romance novel. This is like what they're working towards. This is nice. And I'm coming from realistic. This relationship is okay. But I feel like that's like a basic thing. Know the person that you're sleeping with or want to have a relationship, what they like, so that they can have it later. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I guess that's a good thing, but I feel like that's what
Did
you
she
should be
do
paying
the
attention
same
to
though?
with your partner.
I feel like she didn't do the same. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, just because like it's something that you feel like he should do doesn't mean he doesn't get credit for doing it. It's not like we're saying, yeah, he showered every day. Woo! No. Like I don't think it's as simple as like you're making it out to be because it's something he easily didn't have to do and no one would have faulted him for not doing it.
And let's not talk about the fact that why this is a problem, why this is something she's bringing up. Because the reality is, if a dude sees a woman eating ice cream or donuts, he not once said, "You're already a little chubby, maybe you should lay off the donuts." Like never. He never judged her for that.
That's
Ever.
because he knew what this was. You see me. Like, you know what this is.
I'm just saying, like, when he had his passive aggressive comments, that was not one of them. That was
True.
never an issue.
True. And I would say she was annoying. And we haven't really talked about the main character, like the female lead, and I'm not going to say her name because her name was very annoying to me when I was listening
What was it?
to
I
the
forgot.
book. Something
Alexis?
that my echo would pick up on every single time it was said. So I'm going to call her Lexi. That was also a very annoying thing for me during this book. Lexi, I was annoyed with too. Like, I feel like she's got off scot-free because Drew was toxic, but she was definitely annoying me with like her insecurities, which again is a common thing in romance novels because they want women to slot themselves in there and say, yeah, I'm also insecure about this. But I feel like it was going overboard a little bit because it was his insecurities about the same thing over and over. Like that day that he like said, I'm going to go on a run. And she's like, does he want me to go on a run? And he was about to say something. And she was like, was he gonna say you shouldn't eat those donuts? Come on a run with me. Just ask him, girl. What are you doing? Like,
Just go, okay, see you in 20 minutes. Like, I'm not going to run nowhere. I'm not going to run nowhere. The hell?
yeah. So that got a little
yeah, I see
annoying
that.
for me,
Mhm.
along with her name in general. But yeah, that's all
What
I'm
else
gonna say.
about
I'm
her
gonna leave
did
her
you
alone.
like?
I'm gonna let her live.
No, I want to know because I didn't really think about her as much because she pissed me off enough for like the whole book. So I didn't really think about her too much. I didn't like how she didn't communicate either. Like I said both of them were horrible communicators, but I don't know. I felt like every time she found something else that she didn't like about him, she immediately brought it to him too.
I don't
Other
feel
than this
that
whole
way.
thing when she left. When he was like he lied about breaking up and then all the women that he slept with before and broken up with, she's what the hell is going on? What is this? And you would tell her like, oh, okay, that's it. But
I guess
mean,
I'm
like,
thinking about the big fight though, when she was like jealous that he was standing next to Kat. I didn't even pick up on that. I was like, what is she mad about them saying that they dated him? And then she like brought up Kat during the argument. I was like, is that what it was? Like, I do feel like that argument was partly her fault because she brought it up in like the most passive aggressive way you could have. Not to say that like she wasn't overwhelmed and emotional, like she definitely was because she knew she was catching feelings and like a lot of things, but I don't think she handled that great. The same way he didn't handle stuff like that well. I also felt like both of them was very like they weren't proactive. They were, is it reactionary?
Reactive.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, neither one of them was like focused like on what do I want in a partner. I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready for a serious relationship. It just wasn't on their mind, so I don't think it was like top of mind. Like I probably shouldn't communicate like this. So yeah, just like normal human stuff they were going through.
I did like how the author did like when she would question something when his next like portion of his thoughts he was thinking the same thing that she was thinking. Out of everything, I thought that was cute. I was like, oh, they're on the same page.
I think that was
and then I'll just go back to hating.
Joy gave this book, so round of applause for Joy.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so one more question for you guys. If this were made into a movie, who would you cast? I'm already thinking Matthew McConaughey because his name was in this podcast quite a bit. I'm not sure if that was the right choice. Okay. Actually, when I thought of this question, I was thinking Chris Hemsworth for the main character, just because they talked about how much he was
overdone and dry.
Yikes, Joy. Bob's Burgers, huh? Really? Word for word, overdone and dry, Teddy. But I don't know. I think Matthew McConaughey could be a good one too, just because he's already maybe that's overdone and dry too, since he's always a toxic male character.
Said it, not me.
What's the guy who's the new Spider-Man? What's his name?
Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland.
But he's so healthy.
Wait,
I know
okay.
he's so healthy.
One more point I want to bring up. At the beginning, I don't know if it's because I read so many fantasies, but at the beginning of this book, when she said that she didn't notice him in the elevator, and she was like, "Oh, are you a wizard?" I was like, "Is he a wizard?"
I had the same thought.
The way that they described him, he said, "I thought it was like a homeless man. Like he did not sound attractive." At all from the way they described it. I was like, all right. So it was like a vagabond wizard that pops in and he's going to get them together.
I feel like if I were going to go for it, I would really go for it. I would go for, what's her name? Like an Amber Riley, or what's her name? Oh my goodness, the girl from American Horror Story. Like Gabri, I'm going to mess up her name, but yeah, like someone like that. And then I would go with someone like Carl Drogo. No, that'd be nice.
No,
but,
Jason Momoa,
yeah.
he wasn't that thin.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that'd be nice though. Listen, if I'm making this movie,
Joy, we do not agree with what you're saying.
Those sex scenes are gonna roll with Jason Momoa. Let me tell you something. It is gonna be nice. Yeah. You know what? I would cast myself in Jason Momoa for this movie. That's what
Okay. That's what. Why don't we just say this is what you were planning on doing? Okay. Now it's making more sense.
And second of all, that wouldn't happen because Jason Momoa is just for me. Anyway. For the girl, for Lexi, I feel like, oh man, her name just like completely, I blanked on her name. Never mind. Who?
What was she in? What was she in?
I'm thinking about it.
Oh.
It's like, she's in a stand-up duo with two black girls. Did she make Don't Touch My Hair? The book?
Oh,
What is her name?
Hold on, I'll tell you.
I am awful at names.
Solange?
No, not Solange.
No.
The author.
It's called You Can't Touch My Hair.
Yeah.
You can't touch my hair. Phoebe Robinson.
Yes, Phoebe Robinson, I think, would do well in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see Phoebe Robinson for this.
So cute.
She's perfect for it. She's super cute. She's a little bit curvy.
So
Perfect character.
Yeah, Phoebe Robinson would be perfect for it, I think.
Yeah. Her, like I said, Chris Hemsworth. Someone who's like
Gabourey
lean, but fit.
Sidibe.
What'd you say, Joy?
Gabourey Sidibe? That's the girl I was thinking about. Gabourey Sidibe.
Put it in the chat.
Phoebe Robinson and Tom Holland. That's what I would do.
I feel like that could be cute, but he's just,
Okay.
I picture him a little more bulky than Tom Holland.
And taller. Tom
Yeah.
Holland is 5'8".
Yeah, that's
Phoebe
true.
Robinson's not that tall either, though.
But they talked about how, like, the height discrepancy because she was a short girl, which is another thing that I liked. They talked about her being 5'3". Average height girl.
Yeah. Then if we're going to
No,
go
you said
Hemsworth, it should probably be Liam. It should be Liam Hemsworth.
Okay, I would go with that. Yeah.
I don't want a Hemsworth. I feel like they've been so overdone and dry. They've been in everything.
Not
Let's get
Liam,
someone
though.
else.
Not
Okay.
Liam.
Who would you suggest that's not too bulky then? Because Jason Momoa cannot play this role. He could.
No.
Okay. Instead of the Hemsworths, what if we went with, what's his name? The guy that played the brother that played Loki. He's tall. His hair is dark.
He's not bulky
He could
enough.
He is a little bulky. He's like a slim bulky. Like
No.
athletic.
There's a reason they always say that he's a bottom.
I have never once heard that in my life, Jan.
That was not how it
That's
came
real
out.
messed up.
That's not how it's supposed to come out. No, not a bottom. That's what I meant.
If we're still going to do Marvel characters, I would go with Chris Evans instead then. Chris Evans will be a better fit than Loki.
Okay, what about Cedric Diggory? What's his name?
Edward.
Edward. Okay, I feel like he's
no.
overdone. He's the new Batman. You know that? Did you see that?
That's not a good
Yeah.
fit.
He's the new Batman, and they made Batman completely like emo.
What about Zac Efron?
No.
All right, I'm not gonna say this anymore. You know what? I got my Phoebe Robinson in there, and that's it. I'm not suggesting anybody else, but I'm just saying Zac Efron would be a good fit. I'm done.
He's cute, yeah, but I don't know. I don't feel like he's toxic enough. I don't know. He's pretty toxic in
Good
17
Neighbors
again.
or whatever.
17 again too. He was super toxic.
Yeah. I remember him being toxic in
know.
what's the Seth Rogen movie? Is it Good Neighbors or Bad Neighbors or whatever?
Yeah, Bad Neighbors, I think. That's a funny movie.
No, I think it's Neighbors.
No, yeah, it's probably
Neighbors.
Neighbors. You're right.
And then Bad Neighbors was like the second one, I think.
All right. Final thoughts. Any final thoughts about the book?
I want to say that I respect the author, and I like that she's out here writing.
Joy, I feel like that statement is like saying, I have black friends. That's what it feels like.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Me either.
You just trashed this book for this entire thing. I think you just have to measure it with a certain lens. Yes, was this book perfect? No, that's why I did not get 5 stars. But there were so many things that I felt like she took a risk with it, especially when it comes to this genre. To Janice's point, I'm not very familiar with the romance genre, and I'll be honest, I don't like it. I don't like this genre. I think it's usually very superficial, and I don't care for the female characters. I think a lot of times they're dumb and making bad decisions. But I like that this character was smart. All the characters are educated. She's black. She is aware of her blackness, and she's dating. And there's certain things that she has to be mindful of when she dates. And I love that about it. And I like that she brought the fact that she's a little greedy and a little chunky, and that's awesome to me. But yeah, that's my takeaway from it. And it was done by a black author, which is a bonus, a black woman.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say I think of it the same way. When I'm like reading books, I read it for the genre, not necessarily if it's my favorite book or not. To be honest, if I'm recommending something, I would recommend Skin of the Sea over this book for sure. But for a fantasy book, it was a 3 out of 5. And for this, for a romance book, it was a 4 out of 5. Even though I like that book better, like I'm rating for the genre. And I will also say, just because, like I said at the beginning, it was a black female lead, like it was out of the ordinary for me, and I've read so many romance books. It puts me in the mindset. Have you guys ever seen that TikTok with a black girl reading romance novels? And she's like, yeah, the character had blonde, wheat colored hair. And she's like, what? Oh, she has a sew-in. She has a sew-in. Right. You have to do like mental gymnastics to fit yourself into that story. It was nice to not have to do that for once.
Yeah, that was nice,
Yeah. Yeah, that's my final thoughts. All right, let's talk about our next book. Our next book we're going to be reading is called Slay by Brittany Morris, and we'll do a quick synopsis. By day, 17-year-old Kiera Johnson is a college student and one of the only black kids at Jefferson Academy. By night, she joins hundreds of thousands of black gamers who duel worldwide in a secret online role-playing card game, Slay. No one knows Kiera is the game developer, not even her boyfriend, Malcolm. But when a teen in Kansas City is murdered over a dispute in the Slay world, the media labels it as an exclusionist, racist hub for thugs. With threats coming from both inside and outside the game, Kiera must fight to save the safe space she's created. But can she protect Slay without losing herself?
That sounds
What
crazy.
genre is this?
This one is a young adult novel.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. Chaz, I don't think you'll be joining us for that one, but if you wanted to, you can just let us know and read the book. So that'll be our book for next week, guys. And as far as this week, if you want a chance to win a copy of The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, we will need you to give us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And out of everyone who gave a review, we're going to pick a winner and send you your brand new copy of this book. Joy, Jazz, do you guys have any ideas of what they should put in their review? Should they like put their favorite character or like their favorite romance novel?
I think it definitely has to be a review that's 5 stars for us. And if I'm your favorite, you're definitely going to have a couple of times your name's going to be put in there. Like a
Nah.
little raffle. Yeah.
I didn't mean your favorite podcast character, Joy. Why don't you put your favorite romance novel or author? Or a suggestion for one of our books we want to read. Any of those things.
Oh, yeah. I think a good book suggestion is always good.
Okay, so that's what we're going to go with. Give us a review and give us your book suggestion of something that we should read. All right. With that, let's just do a quick sign off. Jazz, since you're our guest, do you want to do a quick sign off and tell everybody where they can find you, your socials?
Yeah. So you can find me with my blog, Blogging Money Life. And we're on Instagram with that same name at Blogging Money Life. Or you can go to bloggingmoneylife.com. And on our blog, we talk about our move to Costa Rica from the United States, as well as how to start a blog on your own. So you can find me there.
Yeah, good stuff. I want to move to Costa Rica.
I want to go to a beach.
Yeah. Joy, do you want to do a sign off with our socials?
We're Black Girl Reads Podcast. The Black is spelled BLK on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. It's been fun. See you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.